Hey guys, the video that you're about to watch was originally part of a larger project by the apologetics group, the Mentionables. I've merely taken my part of the project and put it together for my audience. However, I strongly suggest you go check out the gang at the Mentionables. Lots of really good stuff there. Just to let you know, I'll put a link down below so you can go check them out. I'll also put timestamps to the individual questions and challenges presented in this video. If you like this kind of content and would like to see more of it, let me know down in the comments. Be sure you like, you subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share it out, let people know. It's important that Christians understand there are answers to the questions, the doubts, and the challenges of Christianity. And this is just one way that I am hoping to help you see those answers, engage this material, and see that Christianity stands against the scrutiny.
Number 1. You avoid those God questions that bother you.
If you find that you avoid questions about God because they make you feel uncomfortable, questions like, how can a God exist who's loving while at the same time there's so many terrible things happening in the world? Or how come it feels like nobody's listening to me when I pray? Or so many other things that butt up against your own notion of God that you'd rather just not hear it or stay away from it altogether because it just doesn't feel good. Well, you may become an atheist soon.
This was a peculiar video to watch and see the things that they think means you're going to become or probably will become an atheist in the future. Interesting thing is, most of them apply across the board. They're not unique to the religious atheist kind of dynamic. They apply to anyone. I mean, they apply to atheists. Hey, atheists, if these are you, you're probably going to become a believer soon. Well, it doesn't really mean anything. A lot of these just apply to anyone in any belief or any position at all. The first one, for instance, right? He says that if you're not willing to face up to the hard things in your belief, then you're probably on your way to being an atheist. Well, okay, anyone who has a shallow understanding of their position or their belief and who isn't willing to really dig in and look at parts of their belief that might make them uncomfortable, well, yeah, that person might be likely to abandon that belief for something else that makes them more comfortable. But that works in whether you're religious, whether you're atheist, whether we're talking politics, your sports team preferences. Right? These are things that don't actually have much to do with religion. It's just the way people think. If you're shallow and focused on comfort, if you look at the two things that he says are kind of the reasons people don't look at the tough issues. One, because it doesn't feel good. Well, newsflash, feelings do not define reality, right? You don't base rational choices on how you feel about something. And so basically what he is saying is that people who are emotionally driven and are irrational because they're just seeking what feels good, they're more likely to be an atheist. Now, the second thing that he points out is that people will probably leave because their notion of God kind of bumps up against reality and they don't like that, so they end up stop believing. Well, okay, fine. Their own notion of God kind of rubs up against reality in an unpleasant way. Well, you got two choices there. Maybe it's that God doesn't exist and you just need to give up this whole thing anyway. Or could it possibly be that your own notion of God isn't really God? Maybe you're misunderstanding what God is, and the God that you've created in your own mind is what is bumping up against reality and causing discomfort. So how about we determine truth based on, what's an accurate representation of something, not our own made-up subjective experience. Maybe the point is that not that you need to give up God, but that you don't know him as well as you thought you did. See, our discomfort, the angst, the feelings, the questions we have, they don't need to be an excuse for us to push away from God. Rather, we go, I don't understand, but I want to, and we press into God, pursuing that relationship, seeking answers in Him. There is no reason why uncomfortable questions should lead a Christian to abandon their faith.
Number 2, you listen. No, like really, you listen.
You actually listen to your opponent when they speak. One of the signs of dogmatic thinking is affirmation seeking. When engaging in dialogue, instead of being interested in and considering the position that's being presented, instead you're looking for holes, for opportunities to assert your perspective and refute the opposition. Once you become more open to the possibility that your position is as fallible as you are, the perspective can shift. Instead of wanting an opportunity to present your case and reinforce your existing perspective, you become more interested in challenging it. Instead of just affirmation, you seek the opportunity to scrutinize and criticize your beliefs. When this paradigm shift takes place, an interlocutor is no longer perceived as an opponent. Instead, they are a means by which to be exposed to an opposing perspective, to challenge yourself and ensure your positions are sound and reasonable and justified. This can begin to place you into the perspective of the opposing side. When this happens, more often than not, you start to honestly admit to yourself that it's reasonable and it makes sense. This might not always lead to deconversion itself, but it tears down some important walls. Instead of being closed, you're opened, and that means that you have to ask yourself some really hard questions.
This second sign that apparently you're on the road towards atheism is much like the first. It's not unique to Christianity. Right? This idea that you are closed-minded, dogmatic, that if you're actually willing to listen to the other person, now you're on the road to change your mind. Well, here's the thing. Closed-minded, dogmatic, narrow thinking is not unique to religious people. There are plenty of atheists that do it too. People do it all over the place on all kinds of different ideas. Right? And so being open, therefore, doesn't necessarily lead you into changing your mind. I mean, it might. But we need to be open-minded to be able to explore and inquire, let curiosity carry us where it may as we discover things about the world and about life, and be open to adapting our view based on the world around us and what we experience and what we know. Yeah, absolutely. But this idea that just because I'm willing to listen to, relate to, understand the other person, not just try to argue, that now that means I'm going to become an atheist. No, it means that I'm a decent human being who's actually listening to someone. Just because you're paying attention to, listening to, paying attention, taking in, understanding the other person, their position, why they believe what they believe, why they think what they think, doesn't mean you're about to jump ship and go join them. We do this all the time. How many times a day are you having a conversation with a coworker, a friend, a family member, somebody that you have a disagreement on? And you're actually listening to them to why you understand, okay, you hold that view and here's why you do. But you still say, I don't agree. I hold this view, here's why I do, and I ain't changing. And you have perfectly rational, intelligent, charitable conversations of seeking, of understanding the other person, and neither one of you are changing any minds. We could be talking about sports, we could be talking about politics, you could be talking about favorite TV shows, whatever it is that you're talking about that you're like, I don't agree. And then you leave it at that. Very charitable understanding. Oh, okay, I see why you think that. I don't. And you move on with life. Right? For some reason, however, whenever it comes to this religion issue, all of a sudden, if there's any kind of question, if there's any kind of getting outside of your box, all of a sudden you're supposed to be changing your mind? I don't think so. That's not what I see atheists doing. I see people all the time, religious and non-religious, having conversations that, a lot of times they're closed off and narrow, but I see a lot of times very civil, charitable conversations, seeking to understand the other person. But if just hearing someone else and relating to them is going to get you to jump ship and change your beliefs, that says more about your belief, your personal psychological belief, than it does about what's actually true. Again, this was the case in the first one. That just means that your position was shallow. That your belief, well, it was just kind of wishy-washy. You come across someone where it's like, oh, they're a nice person. I relate to them. I understand what they're saying. Maybe I need to change my mind. Well, no, you change your mind based on facts, based on evidence, based on the reasons there are to hold the belief you have. Just finding someone else likable and relatable and open dialogue with them, well, that's no reason to change your mind for anything. No, you believe what you believe based on something solid. And if you don't, well, okay. I mean, if you're holding your belief just kind of whimsically, just kind of wishy-washy, shallow idea, it doesn't matter if we're talking about religion or atheism or sports or current events or whether or not you like your boss. Well, yeah, you're open to change because you're not actually holding to any real convictions.
Number 3, you don't take your holy book literally.
You might slowly find yourself turning into an atheist, or at the very least, a religious non, if you have a habit of not taking your holy book literally for whatever reason. Let's take the Bible, for instance. If you start out from a strong position and then slowly start finding yourself backpedaling every single time you find that one of the claims in the Bible can't be justified as a literal claim, you'll find that the more times you have to throw something into the bucket of metaphor, the more bricks you're tearing down around your faith. If you think of your faith as a brick building, every single time you take part of your faith and translate it into metaphor, you are taking one of those bricks away. Eventually, you'll be left with nothing more than a foundation to build up from. And now that you've already discarded all of the old bricks and metaphors, you might not be using the same type of bricks to rebuild your house. After all, why did you get rid of them in the first place? How many pieces and parts of your faith do you have to strip away before the faith simply isn't there anymore? On that, how much of your faith is directly tied to the literature of your faith? If so much of your faith relies on that literature, and you start discarding the literature, what truly is left? You just might find that when rebuilding these walls for your metaphorical house, you might not be left with the same perspective as you had before, where the walls once stood.
So if you don't take the Bible literally, you're on your way to being an atheist. There's this weird thing, I don't understand where it comes from, that a lot of atheists are like so hyper literalist. They're like more fundamentalist than most fundamentalists. Hello, Bible thumping fundamentalist right here. I proudly carry the label, but guess what? I don't take the Bible the way most atheists take the Bible. See, the Bible is a collection of books that is like this hodgepodge of historical narratives and of poetry and all kinds of different genres. And then within the writings themselves, there's literary devices going on like hyperbole, things like that. So if you're reading your Bible and you just come to realize, hey, you know what? This isn't actually a literal telling of something. It's poetic. Right? He's giving me an idea through poetry, so I don't take it exact literally. Okay, this is a literary device. He's making an analogy. He's using exaggeration for effect. Okay, so that's not exactly literal. Well, that's not you, as the video said, that as you find things not literal, you're discarding them. No, you're not discarding them. You're properly understanding them. What's interesting about this is there's just this wooden hyper-literalist, and if you get off it a little bit, then you're just throwing your holy book out the window. No, actually what's happening is probably you're more properly understanding. Right? So like I said, hey, fundamentalist, super fundy right here, so I think there are plenty of things in the Bible where it's giving us historical, events and facts, but, there's a lot that's not. And so maybe it is that if you're getting away from this strict wooden hyper-literalism that the atheists prefer, that you're actually not turning into an atheist. You're just growing closer to God as you come to know Him more properly. That you understand the Bible for what it is. You don't have this preconceived notion that every single thing in there must be true. See, this is the kind of nonsense that gets us things like the earth must be flat because the Bible says there's 4 corners. That's not how the Bible is read. And if you are so ingrained, just hyper literalist, devoted, you know what? You're not actually following God. You're following a weird concept of a book that's not actually really applicable to the book. So again, on this one, like we've seen on the other 2, the people who are likely to be down the road to atheism because of this are people who are actually not holding the Christian faith too tightly, that they're misunderstanding. And so it's interesting that the sign that you might be an atheist is that you misunderstand how to read the Bible.
Number 4, you love science.
If your flirtation with science extends beyond the occasional TED Talk to a truly curious mindset, your inquisitive pilgrimage will invariably lead you on a quest for answers. At some point in this journey, you'll begin to realize that the universe is knowable, not in a new age anthropomorphic personified way, but knowable in the sense that we can and are uncovering how it works. And science is the method for how we investigate its inner workings. Like reverse engineering a foreign contraption, science asks how, and then sets about to find out. In neuroscience, you realize that seizures, sleep paralysis, and schizophrenia have chemical causes and aren't demon possession. Studying biology, genetics, and biochemistry, you'll learn how we know that all animals are related and that we're animals, that life is nothing more than chemistry, and that it can arise from non-life naturally. Anthropology, dendrochronology, and geology will show you how we know that the Earth is far older than most ancient religions could even fathom. Cracking into physics, you'll discover how particles pop into and out of existence ex nihilo, from nothing, and observe how even entire stars and planets can form entirely on their own. The more you fill in your gaps of understanding, the less room is left for magical supernatural forces. And as more and more of your supernatural beliefs fade into your cognitive graveyard of scientifically illiterate misconceptions, you'll realize how many times you've been wrong with the assertion, "We don't know, therefore God," as your placeholder for ignorance. And you become comfortable with, "We may not know yet, but perhaps we can find out together."
This 4th supposed sign that you're on your way down the road to atheism is that you love science, which is kind of a weird thing because, hello, Christians invented science. So that's kind of, I'm not really sure how that would follow. Now, what we get in this video is actually based on not a love for science, but his misunderstanding and application of 2, long refuted canards, I would even say, of scientism and God of the gaps. Okay, now, despite all the things that he goes on this laundry list of allegations to say, science has proven this. Actually, it hasn't. That's a misunderstanding of how science works. And so I'm not really sure how love of science is going to get you to discard religion. Based on his thinking, though, what you have is what's called scientism. That science is going to give us all the answers. Science is the arbiter of truth. That science is the gateway. Science is the standard by which we determine what is real and what is true. Well, the problem with that is it's self-refuting. Science itself cannot be scientifically proven. That statement that science is how we find truth cannot be determined true through science. Hey, you know what? There's lots of other things. Mathematics cannot be scientifically proven. The laws of logic cannot be discovered by science. The fact that your senses are reliable cannot be determined through science. Right? The fact that the universe exists at all, and we're not just brains in a vat or living in the matrix, right, cannot be determined by science. However, all of those things need to be in place to do science. And so if you're holding science up as this great standard that it alone can find the answers, well then yeah, you're probably headed to atheism, because guess what? The truth of reality is not contained only within science. And so if all you're doing is looking through that one little hole, you're missing all this other stuff about life. So yeah, okay, if you're ignoring everything else about life and just focused on the limited amount of information science can give you, okay, you might start to disbelieve all this other stuff about reality. However, he also throws in this God of the gaps. Okay, about how as we grow in knowledge, that the area, the space in reality that God occupies in our thinking gets smaller and smaller and smaller. This idea that we just say, I don't know what that is, therefore God must have done it. Okay, some people might hold that idea. I don't know anybody, but someone somewhere probably does. But that's not what Christianity is. See, I mean, if you're walking through life holding those ideas, yeah, okay, fine. You might become an atheist. But Christianity is actually, hey, we have evidence, right? That hey, look, God exists. The Bible's real, right? I mean, we have this evidence. We have the historical evidence, the philosophical evidence. We have all sorts of things that add up to show us the truth of Christianity. It's not a God of the gaps. We're not looking at the gaps. We're looking at everything and going, it points to God. But what's interesting is he's again holding the view that if you believe in these false ideas, then you're probably on your road to atheism. Hey, if holding false ideas leads you to atheism, well, okay, don't hold false ideas.
Number 5. You want to prove religion true and use science to do it.
You're on a journey to prove your religious belief true with empirical evidence. Like Luke in the cave on Dagobah, such a path has only what you take with you. Bring any presuppositions, nostalgia, traditions, or a desired outcome, and you bypass intellectual honesty for a home in self-delusion. Remember, on this journey, your holy book is not your guide, not your map. You're trying to recreate the puzzle that is your faith without using the picture on the box. Start with corner pieces. Who wrote your holy book? And when? What does it really say? Can you arrive at these conclusions using only evidence, not faith? Next, fit in the pieces of science, history, philosophy, ethics. Wherever the journey of evidence takes you, that's where your home is, even if your faith couldn't come along.
So number 5, this idea that if you're trying to use science to prove your religion, well, you're on your way to atheism. Because science, you can't bring all of that religious baggage with you. You have to come to science empty-headed and thoughtless. Wait, no, that's not really what he said. Without your presuppositions, without your biases. Well, here, newsflash. We all have presuppositions. We all have biases. There is no such thing as this romanticized idea of the truth seeker, free of bias, pursuing it wherever it leads. Everyone has biases. Everyone brings to the scientific endeavor their own baggage of worldview and beliefs. The only people apparently who are free of this are atheists? No, you bring your atheistic, naturalistic, only material things can exist worldview to the project. But here's the thing. Reality is the questions that we are looking to answer here aren't even scientific questions. Science does not have the tool set to adequately address issues that religion is focused on. Does God exist? Science can't even enter the arena. Are miracles possible? Science cannot even enter the arena. Okay, we're talking about things that are outside of the scope of science. Now here's the thing. Science in these situations act kind of like forensics. Right? In a courtroom, right? Science may be able to show that the defendant's fingerprints are on the gun. Does that mean he's the one that pulled the trigger? No. Actually, no, it doesn't. Maybe it's his gun and he's fired it before. So of course his fingerprints are on it. But he wasn't holding it at that point, was he? I don't know. Science can't actually tell you that. You need something else in the mix. Likewise, there are plenty of things about life, about the world, about God, that science can kind of give you a data point, right? That kind of explains it, fits in, it's consistent with a particular claim. Just like the fingerprints on the gun is consistent with the guilt of the defendant, but not necessarily. there are scientific points that are consistent with the existence of God. And so they're actually part of the argument, but science alone. And so again, what we have here is this idea that if you're doing this wrong, it leads you to be an atheist. Do you see that? Right? If you're approaching the thing saying science alone determines the outcome, and if you're trying to use science, you must go to atheism. No. If you're coming to science and you're saying, okay, I'm going to use these scientific data points to then look to see what they are consistent with and what they explain largely about life, by also bringing into the mix history and philosophy and metaphysics into it, because that's what we all do, right? It's like a recipe. And I don't care if you're atheist or agnostic or Christian or Buddhist or New Age spiritist, right? Whatever you do, when you come to these questions, it's a recipe of different things, from philosophy, from metaphysics, from science. So if you're just saying, hey, you know what? Science in the mix kind of shows that this is true. Well, that's not going to lead you to atheism. Not if you're thinking correctly about it. So again, it seems to me we have a situation where it's thinking incorrectly about something is what's going to get you down the road to atheism.
Number 6. You know your faith foundation is only good enough for you. You acknowledge that your God belief is only based on personal experience. I grew up as religious as they come. I believed it with all of my heart, and it was the core thing about me. It was the center of my personality. And at a certain point, between being totally religious and atheist, I realized that the reasons why I believed those things that I felt were what atheists often refer to as anecdotal evidence. These were personal experiences that I had identified as religious experiences because of influence of other people's stories. I took what I had heard of people in similar circumstances and assumed that the conclusion they came to for their experience was the same I came to. Growing up religious, I thought I felt the Holy Ghost. And that was certainly the thing that stuck out the most to me, that I had witness borne to me. And then the day came when I couldn't explain a lot of the things that I admitted were inconsistent and seemed strange about a world with a loving God, but I just knew it was the case. And this was one of my steps toward losing my religion. Losing my religion. When I finally realized my reasons for believing weren't good enough for anybody besides me. And finally, the day came where I had to acknowledge that the reasons why I believed were really only good reasons for me, or at least I thought so at the time.
So number 6, this idea that if you realize that your religious experience is just good enough for you. Well, okay, now that might be something to make you stop and go, okay, am I really experiencing this right? Am I really thinking about this correctly? See, because one thing you need to understand is there's a difference between knowing something and showing something. You can have first-person private experience that is trustable, that is credible, that is something that you should say, yeah, I know that is true because I experienced it. Well, can you demonstrate it and prove it to someone else? No, I can't. Let's say you're accused of murder. And where were you at the time of the crime? Well, you were at home, binge watching Stranger Things on Netflix. Why you're behind on that show at this time, I don't know. It's been out forever. You should have seen it by now. But for some reason, you're just now getting caught up. And so you were home by yourself, no one else around, binge watching Netflix. Okay. Can you prove your innocence? Do you have an alibi? Can you actually show where you were? You know where you were. You know what you were doing. That is a first-person private experience that only you can be convinced of. Can you demonstrate that and convince anyone else of it? Nope. No, you can't. So therefore, are you irrational in belief? Are you now on the way to thinking, maybe I really did kill somebody? No, you're not. Because you know there's a difference between knowing something and showing something. Just because I can't show you doesn't mean that it didn't really happen, that I'm not justified in my believing it. But let's say that you actually, okay, fine, it's like I have this private first-person experience that I can't show to anyone else, so oh no, that's just me. I'm just believing. Well, hold on a second. You may not be aware of this. Maybe it is that your experience is the only thing you have to go on, and that is what your faith is built on. That could possibly be justified. It's called the principle of credulity. This idea that you're rational to believe something until you find reason to not believe it. Okay. But guess what? Outside of your experience, there is a lot of other reason to believe Christianity is true outside of your own experience. Right? So if you're kind of questioning and starting to go, well, you know what? This is just my experience. Well, go explore, go seek, go find the answers. Because there are a lot of people out there, the reason they believe has nothing to do with their first-person private experience. They looked at the evidence external to themselves and came to the conclusion. So go find that out. You don't need to go traipsing down the yellow brick road to atheism. You can pull back the curtain, see the wizard for what he is, and actually understand that, no, that there's evidence, that there's more to it than that.
Number 7, you're a little obsessed with debating atheists.
You spend a little too much time debating atheists. Once trivial and routine things such as scrolling through your social media newsfeed have now become an obsessive hunt for someone or something that you disagree with. People who are confident in their belief or who have no doubt in their faith don't pay any attention to anything atheists have to say. These conversations trigger you. Now, why is that? Well, if we're 100% honest with each other, it's because you have doubts too. And that's okay. Our brains are hardwired to be curious, to ask questions, and to seek the answers to those questions. Religion tries to extinguish those sparks, instead dampening it with verses from ancient books telling you to trust and obey and that faith is all that you need. When you confront us, you're really confronting yourself. When you demand that we give you evidence that there is no God, you're really just grasping at evidence for your own. When you try to convince us to believe, you're really just trying to convince yourself. Hearing us talk about being skeptical, asking questions, pointing out contradictions, that's like pouring gas on that mind. We engage you because we see those sparks, curiosity, and doubt. We are not your enemy. Instead, think of us like a flint. We engage your arguments, waiting, hoping for that one strike that sends a spark into that curiosity and doubt, igniting the flames that burn away that barricade that religion has put up, freeing you to finally seek the answers to the questions that you have and not some ancient book.
So this last supposed sign that you might be on the road to atheism was kind of bizarre, because all it did was it took a general psychological state that a lot of people find themselves in that are very not specific to religion, and instead focused it in on religion when it's actually a very widely applicable idea. I don't want to say silliness, but just kind of oddity of this is that it's very easily turned around. I have heard, probably even said myself, things like, atheists that are debating with Christians, they're really just seeking the reason why atheists find the need to seek out and engage with Christians and to debate and argue, to make YouTube videos about it, is because, well, you're really trying to convince yourself that is the answer. And so this doesn't actually add up. Anyone of any kind of persuasion can do this. Anyone who's in a situation where you're a little, insecure about your belief or your position. See, but that's not the only possible option. But some people just like to argue, and they don't care what it's about. And so they pick something they're passionate about. Not because they're wrestling with doubts and they're trying to seek answers, but because they believe it's true and they just like to argue. Some people actually have a passionate burden for other people. And there's an actual angst and sorrow there in knowing that you don't believe that you need Jesus and you won't accept it. And so that's why they argue and debate. There's some people who maybe they teach the stuff that they have that. They're not necessarily trying to argue for you, but they're polishing up on their own ideas so that whenever they talk to someone who's actually interested in hearing what they have to say. There's more options on the table for someone who likes to debate this issue than you're questioning, you're seeking, you're really just trying to convince yourself. There seems to be some projection going on here, I might say. So this is just really it's not a sign at all. So if you're out there and you find yourself debating with atheists, it doesn't mean that now you're on the road to become an atheist yourself. There's all kinds of things. And even if it is because you're insecure in your faith, you're insecure in your convictions, okay. That doesn't mean you'll be an atheist. Maybe you'll actually go look at the arguments and the evidence and see that atheism doesn't add up. Maybe that by engaging with atheists, it's not that you're going to open your mind to realizing that God doesn't exist, but you're actually going to see the weakness of atheist arguments, that there is no evidence for atheism, that whenever you come down to it, which position actually has the force to withstand scrutiny? Well, it's certainly not atheism. So just because someone likes to engage does not mean that they are on the road to atheism.
Every time I feel the walls closing, you cover me and breathe life in me again. Lord, though I feel the darkness come, I will not fear, you've ransomed me with blood.